Hey guys, Culture and People podcast here. Today's guest is Erica Conway. Erica, in a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
Erica Conway. I own C2, which is a staffing firm for creatives, and I just launched Talimer, in which I am a co-founder, and we are a freelancer-first platform where we connect freelancers with resources they need to be their most successful, fulfilled, and confident selves, finding them jobs, benefits, business tools, and by serving freelancers first, we serve businesses better.
I love it. I love it. And Erica and I were talking ahead of time. So everybody who wants to reach out to me and ask me, should I go out on my own? Should I get a side hustle? Talimer is a great resource. We'll put the link in the show notes. So Erica, for you, what is the best thing about working in this people and culture space?
So I started in higher ed way back. And one of the things that I've always done is I help people find their voice. And so right now in this piece of things, both with the staffing firm and with Talimer, we help people find a way to tell the story about their full value. Because when you're freelancing or even temping, you have this skill to offer, but that's just a small portion of what the value you offer, right? So how you show up on a team, your background, your experience, all of those things have value. And if the better you can articulate that, the better you can find fit and get to fit faster. So our kind of front work is always about helping you better articulate your full value so you can get to fit faster. And by you being really discerning about who you want to work with, you're going to better serve the people that you do work with.
It's a good match that way. And Erica, you're speaking to my heart. I always tell people, I talk a lot about career on workshops and keynotes, and I say, it goes two ways. The employer needs to provide a better ecosystem to learn and leverage the talent better. And the leverage part is where you come in about the strengths. And the people then on this side, the people need to own their time, talents, and their voice that they have given away. So the fact that you're focused on helping them reclaim that voice. Oh, thank you for the work.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's more fun that way.
I get it. So I'm hearing from other leaders that engaging employees is a challenge. What are your thoughts?
Well, the answer is yes. It's hard for me to stay engaged, and I own both my efforts. I think that's kind of the nature of, well, it's definitely the nature of 2020.
That's true.
There are a lot of bigger fish to fry than like, oh, can I get this data entered into my CRM? And I think that, but if you're doing the right work and your soul is fed at some level, it increases that engagement. So I think people just need to be asking, like, what do you need right now? And people need to be asking it of their teams and asking it of their managers, and managers need to be asking it of their individuals and their people, because no one has a concept right now of how connected people are to COVID, to the upheaval for racial justice. I mean, you just don't know where people are on their path. So the more you can say to them, like, what do you need? How are you managing? How can I be helpful? What resources do I need to make available to you? The better they're able to help increase engagement in this very kind of contentious environment. So
yes.
Asking people what they need and then trying to backfill to the best of your ability.
Yes. And that curiosity part, Erica, that is one of the, if it wasn't a top skill before 2020, it's definitely a skill now, because how do we build engagement and connection and tether people to the organization, to our mission, whether we're in a work or community group or church or whatever? That's how we build those connections, by being curious. Yep. Love it. Love it. What advice, tactical advice, would you share, Erica, that would help organizations either advance their culture or grow their people practice?
Well, certainly they need to check in with you.
I'll Venmo you that money later.
Exactly. I do think it's engaging outside perspectives like yours to be able to get a better assessment of team dynamics, self-awareness, making sure people are aligned with the mission of the organization. And if they're not, figuring out a way to either increase that alignment or maybe giving them an exit ramp so you can get somebody in. So at one point in my career, I said to somebody, like, it's clear it's not a fit for you here. I want to help you find a job. What can I do? You can job search while you're here. I need to get you out, but I also need to get somebody in who wants to do this work. How can we navigate that? And the person was like, what? I don't understand. And I'm like, well, I care about you, and Milwaukee is small, so I'm not going to just fire you because you don't like what you're doing here. It's not about you. Clearly, sometimes you can't learn until you're in it. Yep. And then, but she was really astounded that I was willing to invest in her long-term success as opposed to just, and I'm like, that's the only way to do it. It doesn't matter how big your organization is. If you're not invested in the success of your people, how are they going to invest in the success of your organization?
Yeah, I love that strategy, Erica. There were far too many times in corporate, and even now when I coach and consult with organizations where they're like, well, I've had it. I'm like, well, I guarantee you haven't given them enough feedback. And they haven't done that key phrase that you said, which is increase alignment. Try to make adjustments. I mean, I do that to people on my team. I know you do too. We're making adjustments constantly, trying to tweak and say like, what is the best use of this person's time, talents, voice, and strengths? Because they have a lot of them. Yeah. And if we really try for that and it's still not a match, then I always say the phrase, don't go out like a punk. The person shouldn't quit abruptly and we shouldn't fire them abruptly. How can we transition them?
Yeah, I love the time, talents, voice, and what was the last one?
Oh, who knows? Time, talent, strengths, and voice, maybe? Who knows what I said?
Talent, strengths, and voice. I love that. And I do love the don't go out like a punk.
Yeah.
I'm always like, it's small, Milwaukee. You have to tend to every bridge. You cannot go out like a punk. I'm going to totally stop that.
And that's for Milwaukee, Erica, but we've got people listening all over the world right now. And you and I were on with Rayshawn on the Summerfest Tech.
Yeah.
He's in, the Silicon Valley area. He knows that really well. It's like that there. So it's small valley there instead of small Milwaukee. You have to understand that you are affecting somebody's life when you're making those hiring and firing decisions. They're very critical.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I don't know how that gets ignored so frequently, regardless of the size of your organization or industry.
Yeah.
Because it does.
It does. I think because we're all human and we have our own shit and like we just get distracted with it and we forget how big of a deal that is. Or maybe we've never had it done to us, right? We don't know.
Or bad behavior has been positively reinforced, whether intentionally or not. And then managers who propagate that bad behavior are empowered as opposed to course corrected.
Yeah.
So, sometimes you have to just take yourself out and be like, this isn't going to get better. I can't fix this. I'm going to have to go. But not like a punk.
Right. I mean, every job where I left, I was recruited to go somewhere else or I was looking, I gave like a 6-month, 3-month, 2-month window to say like, hey, I'm going to be going, but I want to do you a solid. I love what I do here. Maybe it didn't work out for the long term, but I will. I think that's great, Erica. So what favorite resources do you have that advance your personal thinking on culture or people? It could be a podcast, a book, a thought leader, anyone.
So I'm loving the Black Sheep groups, which we're both participating in, which is all about startup culture and resources and how people are kind of navigating new. I'm also a fan of I love LinkedIn and I love to scroll through the references that people are having and they give you like this podcast specifically, like listen to this episode. Because otherwise I think I could spend all day consuming content.
We could.
And in some days I do. But I also think like whatever your industry organization is, I'm a huge fan of those as a place to like give you all your resources. And I've also been incredibly impressed with the way all of the upheaval for racial justice has spawned all these new conferences and initiatives. So I've been consuming Where Are the Black Designers? I'm on their Slack channel. I went to their conference. There's another one called Black Design Ignite. The 600 and Rising has some great content. And so there are all of these kind of industry things with underrepresented groups and talent that I hadn't had access to before that I have been so grateful to be able to dive into. Because in Milwaukee, there have been some efforts and I've been fairly active in kind of promoting and finding ways to increase representation of, the BIPOC community within creative. Now it's coming from the other way where people are like, we are here. It's not hard to find us. So take advantage. And I'm like, whew. So that's been really fun, is just to kind of be open and exploring and then saying like, okay, I'm gonna participate in these things and see what comes of it.
Yeah, because look, guys, now's the time to learn and unlearn, right? Yes. Okay,
Well,
Erica,
yeah.
you have been a delight today. Thank you for all you're doing for culture and people.
Thank you. Same to you.